Good morning. Welcome to the 10th edition of Pivot Point Live. It's 2/29/2024. We've got Tracy Carrington and
Uh-huh.
myself, Paul Routhier. I'm crazy because the weather has gone from 65 degrees 2 days ago. Yesterday, it was 10 below zero,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it's going to get up to 40 today. Minnesota is absolutely insane with the weather. It's kind of crazy.
Hmm.
So,
Yes,
how you doing
I
there in
I am
Oklahoma?
in Oklahoma. All of our ranchers are burning down their fields. They're burning down their fields so where they can have at least two good baling seasons in the next season. And they start out like that. Well, the cool thing is they burned down a lot of the red cedar that's been pollinating since December. And that's got me all. So I mean, I don't know if it's just age because I don't remember ever suffering like this before. Test negative for everything else, but apparently it's called cedar fever, and that's what I've been dealing with for the last like 8 weeks. But hopefully, with them burning down their fields
Yeah,
and burning away some of this stuff, I can kind of get to healing. And the pollinating is supposed to be done by the 1st of March. So that's just tomorrow. I just got to wait until tomorrow.
and that is the craziest sight. I've driven from Minnesota to Dallas quite a few times, and come through when they're burning the fields, it's just like we came through one night and it was just red glow across the
Yeah.
horizon. I was kind of like, uh-oh, what are we driving into? But yeah,
Yes, and if you don't know why and you know what's going on there, you're thinking like, oh man, has war broke out? I mean, because it does look, it's pretty sinister. I got a picture, I'll send it to you. But Paul,
yeah,
I'm so
I've
glad.
seen it, man.
Okay, well, the one that I had was like 2 acres in my backyard. I'm like, when it's that close to your
Oh,
house, you're like, whoa, it's a little
yeah, yeah,
intimidating. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Especially when you're like as far as the eye
All
can
right, what
see.
are we talking about today, man?
Okay, so this is the soapbox for me. So it's a
Uh-oh.
soapbox session, and I thought, it's the 29th. We're not going to have a day like this when we land right on the 29th, likely in a few years because of the leap year. And I just thought, well, hey, let's just throw out a soapbox. Now, I don't know what your soapbox is, but mine happens to deal with customer service. And when I think about customer service, I'm reminded of the quote by, I think it was Jimmy Johnson, and he said that the difference between ordinary players and extraordinary players is just that little extra. And I love that statement.
Yeah.
And I've heard before that I think it was even Grant Cardone had mentioned in one of his books. He mentioned that customer satisfaction is the wrong target. And I agree with these statements, which is why I shoot for customer amazement. I want to give the people my clients, I want to exceed their expectations and so forth. So I just thought that maybe we could spend some time discussing extraordinary customer service. Why is that important? How does it help in business? In fact, Peter Drucker, I was just reading, Paul. I've got a resource, Peter Drucker. This is the Daily Drucker. And he talks about it in one of the chapters. He talks about what is your business. And he says it is defined by the want the customer satisfies when she or he buys a product or service. It's like the business I'm in is the want that's satisfied when the customer makes the purchase from me. So anyway, I just thought that would be a good topic and likely to help because I think it's the difference maker in any industry, in any business. What's your thoughts?
Well, I guess I can't disagree with any of that, or I'm going to get kicked off the program, right? So, um, but it leads me. There's a lot of ways to go with this, but I want to start out with what's your definition of great customer service? What's the definition?
Mm-hmm. So I think it's yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I'm thinking of to define great customer service. it starts with it's not something external. It starts something internal by the person who's delivering the service, by the servant, right? I mean, so I mean, I want to make a connection with the guest, and I'm like, there's all these wants, but it has to start from the inside. And so, like when I was hiring people before, I wanted to know, hey, what is something that you accomplished, that like, you really had to work at, but you really did it. I mean, like, it's an internal drive, it's an internal mission. And I think it starts at least that way. As far as defining it, I think it's a positive experience in the transaction of, from, a service or a product to a customer that is buying that, like you've said so many times, and it's kind of burned into my brain, the outcome that the customer is wanting to receive. Not only did you deliver on that outcome, but you went just a little extra. I know that's kind of a long, it's not,
No,
like
that's
defined
good.
like
That's good. I like the answer. I really do. I totally align with it. So based on what you're saying, because it's comes from the inside, my belief around great customer service is great customer service comes from great employee service. If the employee has an extraordinary experience with the company and the management, and they're bought
so good.
into everything, then it transitions itself into great customer service. So really great customer service, from my point of view, starts with a great employee experience. What do you think?
That's great. I love that. I love that. There's an author named Jeff Henderson, was a senior marketing for Chick-fil-A. He wrote a book called For. In other words, what are you for, or what do you want to be known for? And then, what do people think you're known for now, and bridging that gap. And he talked about, he talked a great deal about that. He said, you can't build a positive customer culture on the back of a negative employee culture. And it kind of goes to the point that, like what you're saying, like, so it begins there. It begins like in the heart of the business. I don't remember who it was. It could have been Jim Collins, but basically your greatest competitive advantage in business is your people.
That's right.
And
it was
might have
Jim
been good to
Collins, by the
great.
way.
Okay. All right. So like, and I like that,
Built
like
to
competitive
last.
advantage. Yes. Oh, built to last. Okay, built to last.
Yep.
And I got both of them on my shelf. There's a lot of case studies that he goes through on his two books, The Good to Great and Built to Last. But that's, I think, so dealing with the defining great customer service, we've defined it that it's an inside job, that it starts on the inside and it's manifested on the outside. So what are some of the things that on the internally that our teams, our leadership, values, all those things that like need to be found on the inside in order to deliver this great customer service in a genuine way, not like you probably welcome in. I mean, like, they're not even looking at you. I mean, like, they're going through the motions. Like, it's kind of like the mechanics. Like, we got this rule that when somebody comes in, you hear the doorbell ding, ding, ding. You're supposed to say, hey, welcome in. But they're not making any kind of eye contact because they're busy in the task. So what are some things on the inside that need to be found in order to be expressed on the outside to reveal great customer service? What are your thoughts?
Well, again, I got to go right back to the great employee experience. Where are your deficits in employee experience? Why are your employees, a lot of people will go right to money, and it's not about money. It's about how they're treated in the organization. Mm-hmm. The level of buy-in they have for what you're doing, ultimately, if they're just showing up I have this conversation all the time. If they're just showing up for a paycheck, then they're going to, in fact, I helped a company redefine kind of their employee experience through management, because they had no man. They had multiple locations. They were trying to drive management of those locations from the central office without a manager in place. Mm-hmm. And we started talking about incentives for management, because what we needed to do is turn the top employee there into a manager, come up with a number that they agreed to for that store, give them ownership of the store, staffing it themselves, and then pay them out on a bonus structure based on their performance to give the manager both ownership,
Mm-hmm.
accountability, buy-in, responsibility, and self-reliance. Um, so and in that translates down to, okay, what's really important to my employees, what across the board. Every employee is just a little bit different, but what generally is the most important to all of them? What metrics am I going to use to measure their performance by, and how am I going to reward those metrics? Right. So that's the first step, right?
Yeah.
Is defining, a metric or two besides the, vision, mission, and values metric, which is would be at any company I worked with or worked for, should be the first grading level of their performance, and then whatever metrics that you come through for that job. And customer service may be a metric, right? And you got to figure out how you're going to measure that. And then once you figure out those metrics and measure it, make sure that that's important to the employee and that they can drive for that and be rewarded for that, then that starts transferring things into a positive customer experience if you have a negative one, right? I always I walk into stores and I go, you get that crappy service. I go, oh, must suck to work here. Must suck to work here. You're here. You're just putting the time in. You're just putting the time in. So I'm sorry, man. I feel bad. I feel bad for you. I do. I mean, honestly, I'm making a joke about it, but honestly, I can walk in the front door of any company, and if I get a bad customer experience, I know right away that the metric there's no metric measuring what they're doing, and they are not incentivized to do it. So I think great customer service really, and I'm betting you're going to tell me a story about Chick-fil-A that matches what I'm saying, because
actually, I was thinking about a story about Pizza Hut.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go with the Hut. All right.
So several years ago, we went down south to a beach, and I was going to take my family out, and like, hey, let's go to Pizza Hut. We went into Pizza Hut I think it was on a Sunday, and we come in, and at the time, Paul, I had all 8 of my children at the house. So like no one, like I think the oldest one, they might have been, freshman or sophomore in high school. And then, I mean, all the way down. So you got, this, babies in your arms, and you're coming in with this like 10 people. We walk in and at the time we owned a 12 passenger van. So it's like, we got a bus, like that kind of thing, when you're pulling in. So we come into this place, and we're standing and please wait to be seated. And there's like 2 tables, like a 4-top and a 2-top that are like occupied, nobody else. And there's like 2 or 3 people meandering around, as far as servers. And, a lady comes in, looks at us, and like gasp, and the guy comes around, and he says, give us just a second, we'll get you a table. And she's like, this is impossible. And like, just like as loud as that, right to us, like, this is impossible. Like, looking at us. And I said, kids, this is impossible. Let's go somewhere else. And so but it happens so fast. Just like you said, like, I am not going to get a great experience because she's going to make me feel the way she's been led to feel. And now that I've, had time, a couple of years to reflect on it, I'm thinking, she probably got called in on her day off. She's, something's happening at the house. There's something there that was a miscue because she didn't even know us. And to know me is to love me. And so like, she doesn't even know us, and she's already made this is impossible. Because just to your point, like there's something like we're understaffed, she's holding, the manager is like, hey, just give us a moment. And it's felt like they're understaffed and they're trying to make it happen. And they only got 2 tables in there. And they must be in a hard way, but the server was just, so I got to feel, and I think you're so right with the employees. If they are not incentivized, because I think they come pre-motivated. I know what I did when I come to work. I'm already, I don't have anybody, I don't need anybody to pump me up, prime me up, because you and I, we're living in a different thing. We can internalize that in like we have a mission. But some people, they come pre-motivated and they're like, oh, it's early. I don't want to be here. And we have to provide an environment for them to be incentivized, for them to be motivated. Maybe we could help our viewers who need to pivot in this area as the leader, as the manager, by just going through what are some of the general internal incentivize. I mean, like, what incentivizes people to want to be there, to want to give their best for the 8 to 10 hours that they're serving? Maybe that could really, really help somebody. What are your thoughts? What's one?
I'll go this. I always love going to some of the furniture stores, and the sales guy walks up and introduces himself, and almost the first words out of his mouth are, "I don't make commission on these furniture sales," and I kind of look at them and go, "Why do you work here?" You're in a sales position. Why are you not incentivized to sell, right? Well, because those stores somehow have gotten mixed up with commission means pushy salespeople, right? They mixed that up, and they confused it. So they're all out of whack, right? So your service level has dropped down. The one thing about a good salesman is they're right there to help you. But I see guys, sitting in those stores with their heads down, typing on their computers when you walk in, and their heads don't come up. Bartender's got an automatic incentive. I've walked into so many bars. Oh, not that I hang out at bars a lot. I got to be careful with what I say here. But I've walked in.
But they're involved in the task.
Well,
they're involved in the task.
They don't recognize where you come in and you stand at the bar, nearly empty bar, and they don't come down and check on you. I've stood at some of the bars in this place and waited 5 minutes. And by the way, I don't wait 5 minutes. I go to a different place. But I mean, if they're busy, that's a different thing. But if they just don't acknowledge that you're there. I've had this happen at many restaurants. I've had it happen, you're sitting there looking right at them and they walk past you. They don't even acknowledge you. They're improperly incentivized. Some of the incentives can come on, customer sentiment, with some of these guys, starting to gather, Google customer sentiment and kind of pushing that out, that, or feedback, giving desserts or something to get immediate feedback so that you can rate that representative. And you have to, it's different for every business. So to come here and say, here's the way you should do it, you really need to figure out what's important for each position that you have, find a way to metricize it, to measure it. And then once you can measure it, then you can put a goal there. And once that goal's hit, there's a bonus, and you could further incentivize that. If they hit over the goal, then you can bonus a little extra based on that. I mean, you go to a job, you're making an hourly rate. If you're working 40 hours a week, you know how much that is. If you hit a certain revenue goal, let's say you do a monthly revenue goal for the restaurant. And so you hit that monthly revenue goal. That's you're 100% a goal. You've determined that you're going to pay a 6 or 7% bonus based on their base salary or their base income for the hours worked. And if they hit 100% of their goal, they get 100% of that 7% that you're leaving to the side for their bonus. If they hit 80, they get 80% of that 7%. And if the company does 120% of quota, then you give them 120% of that 7%. You start building back in incentives that grow with better and better performance. Of course, the next month you're going to go for a higher number because you're trying to grow the business. So,
I think so. So the first one, like bonus-based incentives. I think another one could be, why do we do what we do? So like I noticed when I was leading teams, and a lot of it was in retail or restaurant in food service, and you have this checklist, right? Is if you're opening
Mhm.
or you're coming in mid shift, you got this checklist that you got to get it finished, and it's like all these things that I got to get this done. I got to, shred the cheese, and I got to, cut the meat, or I got to, like I got to clean this, or I got to wipe down the windows, and I got to wipe down the tables, and I got to, turn these things over. So all of these tasks on this checklist, and you sign your initials to it. And then when a customer comes in, the customer interrupts, right? Interrupts. They're not an opportunity, they're an interruption. And so when they come in, they interrupt. I'm trying to get all these tasks done, right? And they're like, oh, and then it becomes this us versus them.
Yeah.
Oh, stupid bus. And they don't even think that bus is paying your
Damn
salary.
customers.
Like if there's any bonuses,
Yeah.
if there's any bonus that we can incentivize you with, it's coming from that bus out.
That's right. That's right.
And so I think they forget, why do we do what we do? I mean, we are doing all of this checklist, knocking it out because we've got this hour window before we get rocking again. And when we get rocking again, we got to be all hands on deck, 100% committed to the customer. And we can't do that if you're running out of things and going in the back because you weren't fully stocked, to serve them in the first place. And so reminding people that what we do and why we do it is so important.
This conversation brings me to a thought. You heard me say unintended consequences probably 3,000 times,
right.
But
Yep.
unintended consequences. Look at some of the restaurant industry, some of the high-end restaurant industry that have put in a mandatory tip. That's a disincentive right there for customer service. Right there, a mandatory tip. So I'm automatically tipping you 20%, no matter how badly you treat me. By the way, I look for that. If I see it, I don't eat there. I just I'll see it on the menu and I'll go, oh, we're not eating here. It's not going to happen because you cannot force me to tip someone. I do get it when you have 200 people coming in, there's a mandatory tip on that. I get that, but I don't
usually. Isn't it true that usually it's one or two customers that came in and it was just a bad deal and everybody pays the consequences? Like, I don't like it when they put the tip on my bill because I larger family, and I get it. I understand it, because but you never get more out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, if you put the tip on there, I mean, and I could even say, hey, listen, I'll take care of you. You just need to trust me. You don't have to put the tip on there because my tip would be bigger than what your tip.
The waitress putting the tip on it? Really?
Like if they say parties of 6 or more, do you know how many years I dealt with that with a family?
That's your own fault, Tracy. That's your own fault.
I know. It's that water fountain we kept on drinking from. But that was one thing.
When the Lord said, "Go and procreate," Tracy took it on, baby.
That's right. I was fruitful and multiplied. But like putting that on the back of me, I was feeling that, and I think it comes down to the scarcity. So we were talking about like the bonus-based incentives, why we do what we do, but also like changing the mindset of those we're leading. Like it's going to be a great day. We're going to have a lot of great customers instead of like, oh, another day in paradise. That whole mindset could be shifted on the team to incentivize extraordinary customer service.
And I think
that could be one of them.
And I want to say this because it's really important. We talked about, all right, putting incentives in place. Let's say we've done all that. Now we've got the incentives in place. Now you got to kick people off every morning. Right? Or every shift change, there needs to be like a rah moment, getting everybody psyched up to have a great day. But you watch, if you ever there at 3:00 in the afternoon at X restaurant and you watch that it's a quiet shift over. It's like, oh, I'm so tired, and I don't feel like being here, and Jesse didn't show up, so I'm working a double, and these are all the problems, and the dog bit me when I was leaving the house, and that's that the manager needs to have a raw moment to get them wrapped. Celebrate yesterday's numbers, metrics, right? Celebrate. Hey, we hit it. We got five reviews on Google yesterday. They're all 5 stars. Nice job, guys. Everybody's working towards that monthly
Yeah.
bonus. We're up on revenue. Good job. What are we going to do today?
Yep.
You know, and
Mm-hmm.
as management, you've got, management is coaching, right? You don't put your NFL team
Sure.
at halftime. You don't go in and sit down and drink espressos and complain about what's going on at home. You're prepping for the next half of the game. So, and it's a rah
Mm-hmm.
moment. It's the quarterback screaming rah, or it's the coach screaming rah rah, or get your heads back in the game, and blah blah blah. But
I remember seeing that with Sam's Club. If you went to Sam's Club at 6 a.m., at 6:15, and I always thought, why are they having a team meeting right there in the entry where you're walking in? They used to rally all of their staff there. And like when customers are coming in early morning like that, we had a vending machine business and we're coming in to get our supplies, and it's like 6:10 and they kind of gathering, kind of coming around there. You could not check out, you couldn't do anything. But there was a point to that. They could have done it at like 5:55, but they chose a 5-minute meeting right in the middle to where every customer coming in could hear them scream and chant and holler and stuff like that. And I remember there was a good feeling that I had. Lowe's used to do that.
so yeah, and here's another thing is, and I love this practice. It is like one of the best practices out there. The old adage, you discipline in private, you praise in public, right?
Right.
But you add to that,
Yeah.
I call it the spot bonus. You are doing
Mm.
such a great job. Here's $100 bill.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
everybody, if you're giving out a spot bonus once or twice a week, everybody wants that $100. Everybody
Mhm.
wants it. Everybody's going to be on there. Just like, I'm going to be the one today. I'm going to be the one. I look at the smile I got on my face. Oh, baby, I'm going to get that
Yes.
100,
Yep.
right? The spot bonus
Mhm.
is
I
really
love it.
great. And it works great in retail because you can, see some outstanding performance, or someone, or morale's getting low, and then you walk out and spot bonus somebody, and it just reminds them right away, the whole team, hey man, that could have been me. I need to get my game
Yeah.
on. So spot bonusing
Yeah.
is a great thing, especially in retail. You see someone that's
Mhm.
just
That's good.
outperforming, and you spot bonus them. You see somebody that, the grocery store, and they're pushing their cart out, and the cart tips over, and the bag boy runs out, and he helps fills the cart, and he carries it all to the car. And this customer is like, oh my god, oh thank you, and he walks back in the door. You hand him $100 bill and you go, you got the
Yep.
spot bonus today. Nice job. All right.
Uh-huh.
You start
Yeah.
building a culture wrapped around
Yeah.
performance and customer service.
Mhm. Yep. And my mind went back to different times, probably in the probably mid 90s, when I had a boss that I didn't never thought of it as a spot bonus, but he'd like, Tracer Doodle. He called me Tracer Doodle. And he's like, come on over here. He said, you're doing a great job. And he'd palm me a C note, he'd like shake my hand with $100 bill wrapped in it. So, but I remember those things. He's like, hey, you're going on vacation one time when I went on vacation, $400. That was huge. That was huge for me. I'm going on vacation out to see my grandparents in Arizona. And he's like, he said, keep it under your hat. I wasn't even wearing a hat, but they're like,
Yep.
keep it
Don't
under
tell
your hat.
anybody else.
It's like,
That's where he screwed up. He should have, you want
yeah,
everybody to know that.
it was an
That's right.
opportunity.
It's an
Yeah,
opportunity.
it was an opportunity.
So we got a good question here. Why is it important to have the spot bonus? And I'm going to tell a little story here. This will.
Do it. Well, one thing
Sure.
real quick, Paul, before you do that. I mean, one thing, why is it important? Because I still remember that. And that was like 1994.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I still remember that spot bonus. I mean, like, that's huge. I mean, that's 20, no, 20, 30, no way. Is that 30
Yeah,
years
that's
ago?
30 years ago. You're an old man, Tracy. I'm 26. You're like 50 something, right?
I'm turning my camera off. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no, no,
Like,
no. And this is exactly where I'm going with it too. That's a great point. So back in the 1980s, I think
yeah.
1983, I bought myself a nice 5-liter Mustang. It was a beautiful car. It was
Mm,
hot. I loved it. Um, and I got it, and my dad was chief lockmaster at the Sioux Locks, and I had that car for about 3 months, and for 3 months, my dad was like, "Did you read the manual? Did you read the manual?
mm,
Did you read the manual?" And I'm
mm.
saying, "No, no," or yes, but I didn't, and he knew I didn't because in month 3 he walked out. He said, "Did you read the manual?" I said, "No," and he pulled it out, and on right in the middle of the book, he pulled a nice crisp $100 bill. He said, "You should have read the manual." That would have
Oh
covered
my
gas for you for a
goodness.
month back in that day, right? And to your point, I never forgot it. That
Got
was a
you.
spot bonus for doing
What a
my
great
job, right?
lesson.
My job was,
Yeah.
by the way, I have never bought anything since that day without reading the manual. Okay, it burned it
What a
right into
lesson.
my head like immediately. It's like maybe there's a bonus in there.
Yeah.
you know,
That is, I mean, that's a great, I mean, what a great thought. Like, I mean, like, if you're in the customer service, like, and you're meeting with customers all the time and they allow you to, receive tips or whatever, I mean, if you don't have to do a whole lot more, a whole lot extra, just a little bit more than, I mean, like to dominate. I mean, like, bringing a glass of water, with the napkin and setting it down and yes sir, yes ma'am, and stuff like. I mean, you don't really have to do a whole lot more because everybody else is doing
yep,
very little to
yeah.
nothing, and you can stand out and shine, and people will give. I mean, like your customer can give you a spot
But
bonus, like we're going to give you a little extra.
but the trick is here. It's not. It is changing the mediocre, the middle performers
Hmm.
into high performers, and the
Yeah,
bottom performers to
yeah.
medium performers. Okay, you're not worried about your
Hmm.
top performers, so you have to create.
Yeah.
This is why it is important to you want it. At the end of the day, you're trying to create a culture, okay, and a culture of
Yep.
customer service, and that to do that, and I don't care what the industry is, you have to create an environment that is healthy for the employees. Without that
Hmm.
environment that's healthy and exciting and performance based and reward based, you're never going to get
Hmm.
that culture of customer service
Right.
because
And I think I go ahead. I
no,
interrupted you because
and to that is like that's transfers right to the customer. It transfers, and a
hmm
happy employee, happy customer. Unhappy employee,
yeah,
unhappy customer.
yep, no doubt, 100%. You've done a lot of work with vision, mission, and values, and the value component. The way that I look at values, just for people that are on here, like your culture is an expression of the company's values. Like they actually see it, they actually feel it. Like whatever they say, hey, we're going to be the happiest place, happiest restaurant in the town or the happiest retail store. But like you go in there and they're not sporting the values, right? Because they're not reminding. So you were talking about the rally point, the rally meeting that you have, and then like, hey, where did we have honesty show up this last week, or where do we have commitment show up, and somebody tell me about discipline. Where did one of our team members let's celebrate discipline. Like if these are your core values, they ought to be reminded, they ought to be literate. I mean, like let your customer know these are the things that we feel are important, and like, oh, I don't want to do that because what if we don't hold them.
Yeah. So I will tell you, I
A
will
team
tell you
vote.
the big slip in this is if you've been hiring based on your vision, mission, and values, and your executive
Mhm.
staff doesn't hold to them, neither will your employees. Okay.
Mm.
This is truly based on show me, not tell me.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to, this is where a lot of companies lose it because their
Yep.
management team wasn't properly vetted in these values, and they're not translating it, and they're not hiring to it, and they're not building a culture. You got to suck it back because as the CEO of a company, you can delegate responsibility, but you can't delegate accountability.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
So if you're
Believe that.
not
Yep.
if you're not holding your executive staff accountable for the mission, the vision, and the values, they're not managing to those requirements.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, those are things that you cannot mandate. You have to model.
Those are things that you
Like
have
from
to
the leadership.
hire to. You cannot change a person's value system. You have to hire based on your value system. That actually needs to be the criterion, the baseline criterion that you're hiring from, the baseline criterion that you're having strategic partners with, the baseline, all of it. You shouldn't be hiring outside of those values. You have to find the right questions to ask to vet who you're hiring into the process or into your company, to vet those values out, right? To make sure that you're getting it. And if you're getting it, your turnover goes down significantly. You're going to keep those employees longer.
And I think there's another thing that I know our time is fading away, but I wrote down bonus-based incentives, why we do what we do, changing mindsets, rally meetings, the reminder and the modeling of core values, and the spot bonus. I think that like at least one other that I was thinking of is relationship. I mean, because like when you're coming in, you're part of that team. You're developing you should desire to develop a relationship with, people that are coming in. If they're coming in 2 times, you should know their name. I mean, like you should 3 times. I mean, this is a raving fan. This is somebody that they're coming back. They don't have to be pumped up, primed up, couponed up. It doesn't have to be a freebie that you're giving out. They're willing to pay full price. They're coming in regularly because they love your product, and they shouldn't receive a better experience than somebody who's only coming in one time. But you ought to start developing the relationships. I still to this day remember, the large sweet tea from one guy named James. I still remember the sausage burrito from another guy named Gordon. I mean, I still remember those things because I remember his name. And when I think about his name, I think about what he always got. Because that relationship
and that could be that. I mean, but based on the amount of customers you have, that may be difficult. But that's where customer management systems come in. You're bringing them, you're checking them in. You can do this in a restaurant. You can manage a rewards program in a restaurant. You should be marketing to them anyway. That marketing system is not only about selling them stuff; it's about knowing who they are, right? And you can incorporate that into the restaurant. How many restaurants have I gone into that never asked a thing about me, right? And aren't marketing to me because the restaurant industry hasn't caught up with all the other industries in maintaining customer relationships. That's a whole nother show. A whole other show.
But
right?
you're so right. You're so right. And when I consult with them, I say, how many restaurants, once we get done with a session and we start talking about things how many companies are doing what you're doing right now? None that I know of. I don't know of anybody that's doing this. Like you said, I gave one of the tips that we gave here about reservations. You were talking about getting reservations on Monday for Friday and everything. And they're like, that's brilliant. Like, and I just
stealing my thunder again.
But it's so true. I mean, like if you want to dominate, then don't do what everybody else is doing. Do what people are unwilling or unaware to do. And people will start flocking to you because you're offering something extraordinary. And that's really what talking about today. And that's the problem that I want to solve. And I appreciate you letting me be on my soapbox today and talk about something that is very, very special here. It's the big problem in the world that I want to try to help to solve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good stuff today, man.
It's good stuff. High energy, high octane today.
There you go. All right. We'll see everyone next Thursday. Thank you for coming to Pivot Point Live.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.